gentlemen. Today I'm doing a guitar lesson once again for the almighty Ween. This time it's one of their biggest hits, quote-unquote hits. Voodoo Lady, one of their more well-known songs. I believe it did charts on the Billboard Hot Rock Tracks or whatever. It was like number 30 something. I mean, I guess that's better than nothing, right? Obviously, every Ween song ever released should have been a hit. I mean, especially White Pepper. But of course, we live in an unfair and cruel world, so that's not quite the case. But it's a hit in my heart and many others. Anyway, this is one of their catchiest songs. Love the guitar part here. One of their best riffs, I really feel. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Anyway, very simple song structurally, like all Ween songs. It's basically just repeating. We'll get to the bridge, but other than that, we're in standard tuning. Nothing crazy here. Just really some chords and some little extensions thrown in that I'll talk about. It's in the key of A minor, and the rhythm of your right hand is going to be really important during the song, but you can kind of hear the rhythm, and you can sort of learn by watching. And if you can't get the rhythm down, I suggest just muting the strings, just resting your hand on them, especially if you're newer to doing this kind of strumming. Just practice the rhythm, right? If you're talking, if you're real new, I think if you're even a little bit more experienced, I feel like a lot of it is just sort of not common knowledge, but it'll you can just kind of feel your way through. You'll feel the rhythm, right? As cliched as that sounds. Anyway, so the riff. That's the main riff, all right? So let's talk about the chords. Oh yeah, A minor, C major, then back to A minor. Then we got C, and then a little bundle of open strings, and then we'll talk about that more in a second. But then we got a D major, and then an F major, and you can play that you can play it like this, the full bar chord. You can play it like this, which is also the full bar chord, just with the thumb. Or you can play the just the higher strings, which is just like that. And maybe throw in your thumb in there, right? So either of those, but that's the main riff. And we'll talk about that bundle of strings. So really what I hear is just D, G, and B. And every other string is just sort of like whatever. If you throw in all the strings, I mean, that's fine. But I feel like you really you just want to aim for these three strings, right? As long as you get those, and it's really the D and the G, because I've seen some people say that it's a full-on G chord, and maybe it is. If you want to play it like that, I see people basically just playing the open G, the open D, G, and B with the third fret of the E. And, if you do that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That sounds perfectly fine, but I just prefer to have that bundle of strings, right? And that's pretty much the riff. And then the chorus with "You Drive Me Crazy." That's a D major with the little classic suspension. Right? And then we got an F. And I hear on the original recording, he's either doing something like this. He's either sort of going back and forth between that suspension, which is just the third fret on the high E. Or he's just holding that. It could be either. But I see most people just have it as an F. But sometimes I hear that note more than others, so could be. But either just definitely have an F, and if you feel like throwing in that suspension, or even holding it, then that's fine. And then we have a D again, then E major, and it's just, you can hear the accent, but it's just right, down, up, or both down, if you want. But as long as you get that rhythm, right? And when they play it live, they do a lot more stuff like a Right, they just throw in some scratches in between. You can take a lot of liberties when you play this song live. They definitely do it all the time. They add in this intro. In fact, maybe I'll talk about the intro they add live maybe later. Anyway, so that's essentially the two parts of the song, and then, well, I guess I'll talk about what they're playing underneath of the solo next. So they're actually playing, I mean, the same chords, just in just a different order. So underneath the solo, they're playing C, then D, then F, then A minor. All right, so that's still the same rhythm, you know. It's just I'm just showing the chords. So C, D, F, A, then C, and then E. And then it just does all that again. So all right, so that's what they're playing underneath the solo. And then we have another verse, and then we have the, I guess, pre-bridge, or maybe it is the bridge, the part where it just goes, Voodoo lady, shaking that stick, driving me crazy. So that's literally just strumming an A minor then a C. You're throwing on some delay and reverb or chorus. Sounds real nice. And then we get into the bridge, which is going to be, this is probably the point where you're going to want to add some distortion and all sorts of effects. A lot of this bridge is noise, but this is definitely like a part where you can actually play. This is the part where live they go into long solos and stuff, but on the recording that's not really there. But that goes into with this chromatic thing. Alright, so that's literally just taking a major bar chord on the A, which is, you know, there's A major, but without the high E. I mean, you can add in the high E. You can add that in and do this. You know, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. So that's just that. Just moving up one fret, right? And so on and so forth. And then all the way up to the 11th. And then it ends on the 12th. You can also, you can do really anything you want here. You can just go, you can just have it ring out, because the chord rings out for a little while. So you can just let that ring out on the 12th, or you can maybe just have that with the three notes up here on the 14th of the D, G, and B. Just have that with the open A. I find myself wanting to do that sometimes just because it has a more like wide sound, right? It gives it more of a big sound. Or, you know, you can just go back down to open. So either way, as long as you just play that A, right? And, you know, again, this is where, on the original recording, it's basically just a bunch of noise with all sorts of effects like wah and God knows what else on there. I'm not going to be teaching that. That's literally just noise. They have noisy stuff on there when they do it live, but mostly it's just, you know, improvising solos. But on the original recording, it's just that, right? Just noise. But so what I will teach is the part that's under it, which is this really awesome little bass line, which is just... That goes on throughout the entirety of the bridge on the recording, and from what I can tell, pretty much the entirety of the bridge when they play this live. They might change it up a bit, but that's basically it. So that's just... So starting off from the 5th of the E, then 7, 5, 3 on the A, and then you maybe add a little hook on that, and then landing back on the A on the 5th of the E, and then open E, going chromatically from 3 to 4 to 5, right? And that's it. Just keep doing that over and over again. So. And if you want to add in sort of do what they do live. I think sometimes what I love to do when playing this is sort of add in on those last couple. So dun, 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 you know, do that as the bass is going. It really helps join in with like power chords there. It's a lot of fun. And then it just goes back into the verse, and it's basically the same thing. Ends on the chorus. Right? And that's how it ends. And then we've pretty much the only thing we have left is the solo. Well, I guess before I do that, I want to cover what they do live for the intro, which is this kind of neat little thing. On most of the versions when they play this live, they open up with this build of this chord, right? Which is, so that's an open A, then the 7th fret of the D, then the 5th fret of the G, then your pinky on the 7th fret of the B. Right? And they just vamp it like this. I hear this, whenever I think of this, I'm mostly thinking of the version of Live at Chicago. That's a great version of the song, but this is basically what the idea of the intro when they play this live is. And then they do this sort of suspension to it, this. Alright, so, and then the E is just kind of constantly getting muted throughout all this, but that's just, alright, so that's just the same, but you're moving your pinky up 1 fret, and then down, and then going this double stop on the 5th for the G and B, and then giving a little hook, and then when you come back and hit that, you sort of hit that and the open E. All right, so there's just. And then he kind of does this. So that's just, all right, having the A ring open. And then with the double stops, all right. All right. Pull that down. Right. And then it goes into the song proper. It's worth noting they play this song quite a bit faster a lot of the time live. So anyway, that's pretty much just that. I figured I'd throw that in there because I love when they do that. Anyway, on to the solo. Pretty straightforward. It's essentially kind of goes through the same thing twice, but with some twists and turns. So starting up here. Alright, so, and by the way, this is heavy use of wah in this, and I wish that I could use wah while recording this, but it would be awkward. But yeah, definitely wah is a critical part of this, but you don't need to play it with it. You know, it sounds, as long as you get the essence of it, right? So we're starting up on here, 8th to 10th on the high E, then down a string to the B, then we go to 7th to 9th on the G, and then maybe add in a little vibrato on that last note. Sorry. And then 5 to 7 on the G. Alright, so. Alright, so. Sorry, I lost my place there. Alright. Alright, and then we go. Alright, so the double stop. Then we pull off there. So the 5th. Then we go. Sorry, the double stop. So then just the G string, then down, then a double stop, and then he does this. So that's just 7th and then 8th and 8th, right? On the G, B, and E. Alright, and then we have, and it starts off the same way as before, it just changes one note, right? Instead of going, he goes, classic case of adding in that sour note or brown note or whatever you want to call it, Diener, right? And then he just kind of same as before. Alright, so. Alright. Alright, so we're doing a little thing there. Alright. Tugging that and then bringing it back down. And then. Alright, we do that. And then I do it with my middle finger because I'm doing this with my ring and pointer, right? And then reaching down with your middle finger there to hit the A string on the 7th. Right? And you can hit that note with your ring or your middle, whichever one feels more comfortable. And then we go... And I slowed it down here, and I think he's actually sliding up to both of these. But, you know, you could also just play... If you don't want to slide up to the 7th on the A and D, you can just go... But I now that I've kind of preferred doing it this way. It just adds a little bit liveliness to it. And then we go... Alright, so... Right, and make sure to pick all those. And then he goes... And that's how he ends it, so it's just... And it just ends like that, right? So... And that's how it ends. Hope you got a lot out of this lesson. I love this song. A lot of people do. Really catchy, really fun to play on guitar. And as long as you just you get better and better at improvising, you can do whatever over it. You know, Diener does all sorts of stuff. That's a whole different discussion. I don't think I can just teach you how to improvise over when playing this song live. You know, that's your own thing, right? It's your own touch. So hope you got a lot out of this. Hope you got a lot out of this. And see you later.